Hello, great to have your company. I hope your week is going really well. The Runaways lead singer Cherie Currie was just 15 years old when she stepped on stage in a corset and platform boots and changed the face of rock forever. Cherie, like Susie Quatro ahead of her, helped shatter every stereotype about what girls in music could be. Fronting one of the first all-female rock bands, Cherie roared her way into the history books, but behind the glam and the chaos was a teenage girl navigating fame, manipulation, addiction and reinvention. Today, Cherie Currie's story is far from over. She's still carving as a chainsaw artist, still singing and still touring.
Yes, it's been quite a life. I can't believe I'm 65. That it's been almost 50 years since I joined the Runaways.
Almost 65. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me your secrets for that. You look
Oh,
amazing.
oh, thank you. Well, I think it could be the chainsaw carving that I've done professionally for about 23 years. It kept me into a lot of good shape. But, when you hit menopause, everything changes. You can't take the heat like you used to be able to. And that's just something that I have to live with. And I have to have fans on the stage, all that kind of stuff.
Tell me about chainsaw carving. I know nothing about that.
Well, everything that has been great in my life since I left the Runaways is because of art. When I was a counselor at Coldwater Canyon for drug addicted teens, I had to sit in class with them for 2 hours a day. And I needed to do something. So I started sketching these whimsical pictures with, knights in shining armor and beautiful princesses with animals, always animals, and castles and all that. And my then manager, Rick Frio, took me to Price Stern and Sloan, which was a children's book company, to see if I could be an illustrator for them. And so they looked at my artwork and they went, "Wow, how long have you been doing this?" I said, "A year." And they said, "How is that possible?" And I told them the story of the Runaways and that I had fallen into drug addiction and all this and that. And they said, "We've been looking for our first young adult book, and this is it." And so I walked in there as an illustrator and walked out, little did I know, an author. And because of that book, that's how the Runaways movie was made. So many years later was based on my book. So I went from being a sketch artist to a painter, and I had painted a steer skull on an old oak tabletop that I'd found in the trash down the street. And so I was doing the carving, but I happened to be on the back of a motorcycle going to the beach one
Of
day,
course you did.
Malibu, and there was a couple of guys chainsaw carving at the side of the road. And I looked, I went, "Wow, that's neat." But we didn't stop, and I didn't ask to stop. But every night I went to bed, that voice, Sandy, that voice that we should never ignore. Every morning, you have to go back. Like, why? I don't, before I go to bed, you have to go back. 2 weeks it took me to finally turn around and say, "All right, already, I'll go back." And I went and I walked into this gallery, and instead of like, the square lumberjack type bears that you would expect to see, there were these beautiful mermaids and dolphins and seals. And this voice, as clear as yours, said, "You can do this." And I was like, "What?" I never in a million years thought that I would pick up a chainsaw and start being a chainsaw artist, but I did. And I started winning ribbons like right out the gate. And I've been doing it now for it's pushing 24 years.
The chainsaw is not a light tool. It's heavy,
No.
heavy work, right?
Oh, it is. Yes. And I've got chainsaws as big as me, believe it or not. But it's just something that I've really, through all these years become pretty good at. And what is so interesting about it is it's not like clay work where you can take things off and put it back on. And you cannot make mistakes when you're chainsaw carving, because if
Right.
it comes off and you make a mistake or you do an overcut, then you have to almost start all over again, make it much smaller because you can't have mistakes. So it's pretty cool that I really don't make mistakes anymore. That
Amazing.
I'll tell
Is
you.
it? There wouldn't be too many women in this field, would there?
There was a handful for sure, but not many,
Oh,
not many. But now there seems to be a lot more.
Well,
you
that's
know.
typical Cherie Currie, isn't it? You set the pace for women all the time. I mean, that's what you did with the Runaways. You were just a young girl when you started.
Yes,
Tell me
I
about
was
how
15.
15. Yeah, I mean, I know
Yeah.
you were a surfy chick and you had a big board and you loved the waves in Southern California and hanging out like that. That's why it didn't surprise me when you said you were on the back of a motorbike. How did it all get going for you at 15?
Well, if I hadn't have gone to my very first David Bowie Diamond Dogs concert at the Universal Amphitheater, I believe I was at just the tail end of being 14. It was again one of those, that voice in my head, because I was a surfer chick and I was, I'm an identical twin, and my twin was the real popular one. I was the runt that was not popular and I was
Oh,
very insecure, but I was in that audience and I saw him, and just it washed over me that you have to do this. You're going to do this. And so I walked out of that place a different person. I started to prepare for it, believe it or not. When I
in
had
what way?
met, just separating myself also from being a twin, because, you have to, because that was my whole identity,
Yeah.
was being the twin of Marie. And I just wanted to find out my own identity. And so I ended up cutting my hair into a shag, and I was just laser focused that I was going to find a rock band. And believe it or not, they found me. And that was Kim Fowley and Joan Jett at the Cigar Shack.
At the Sugar Shack, we all know that from the song, don't we? Doesn't matter where you
Yeah.
live, everyone knows that name. I know that your mother remarried and moved to Indonesia a little while before that. Did that have a great impact on you? I mean, she left you guys behind.
Yeah, she did. Well, Marie stayed, which I'm grateful for. She did take my younger brother, but my dad, who was in Texas, he ended up coming back, and we all lived in this little house with my Aunt Evie and my father and my grandmother, and it was so full of love, that house. But I mean, as soon as I joined the Runaways, I mean, it was just I spent almost no time at home for those 2 years. They just really did work us hard. I just wish they would have given us a little bit of a break. I think we could have stuck together a little bit longer, but by the time I left, we were pretty exhausted, and there was a lot of infighting. When you're a kid, especially girls, there was jealousy, and just nobody was there to help us through it. No one. So, it ended up taking a toll, unfortunately.
Well, you had a manager in Kim Fowley. He didn't step up to that role?
Oh no. And I took care of Kim towards the end of
I
his
know you
life.
did.
I moved him into my house, and I had to forgive him for the way he had treated us, because I really realized that that was just eating me alive. It was a very strong life lesson that forgiveness is very important in this life. And he had been raised with a very unloving mother. He had never been a father. How could I honestly expect him to know how to handle five teenage girls? He couldn't. And what he did do is he tried to toughen us up enough for this business that was not really geared for females,
Yeah,
especially teenagers.
yeah.
So, yeah, he would throw food at us, and he would do all, try just to get us ready for this new adventure that turned out to be sometimes great and sometimes a struggle. We had to fight our way through a lot of these shows with boy bands that really didn't believe girls had any place on a stage doing rock and roll. But we changed their minds.
You said that you started going to the Sugar Shack in North Hollywood, the club there for teens, and you
Yeah.
met Kim and you met a young guitarist named Joan Jett, and they just happened to be searching for somebody out front that could sing. Was it pure
They were.
coincidence?
It was. They were looking for a bass player, a guitar player. Lita was kind of iffy about it, but they just walked up to me, Kim Fowley, and Joan was staring at me, and I kind of knew who she was because there was so much hype about this trio, the Runaways, which was her and Mickey Steele and Sandy West, but it wasn't making any traction, obviously, with the record labels. But they walked up and they said, can you sing or play an instrument? And they just liked the way I looked. I guess I had some aura about me. And I said, well, I could sing a little. And they took my number, and next thing I knew, within a week,
Wow.
I was auditioning for them.
Wow. What was your look, Cherie?
Well, me and it's funny, we almost had the same haircut. I really was so into David Bowie that I had a shag haircut. I went from my long surfer chick look into a more punk, I would imagine. And I didn't do a lot of makeup, but who knows if I saw when I see pictures of myself today, with the eyeliner and all that stuff, it's almost amazing that a 15-year-old would be allowed to leave the house like that. A lot of times we had to sneak out, but it was unique, I guess, because a lot of kids really started picking up on that look from the Runaways.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim sort of threw you out there a bit as jailbait, didn't he? Was it your idea with the stockings and the lingerie, or was that his design to get the boys in more?
No, that was absolutely me. And I happened to be at the Starwood, and we were there for a sound check. And I looked across Santa Monica Boulevard, and there was this single mannequin in the window of this little shop that sold women's, racy underwear. And that corset was there. And it was literally, I was just drawn to it. I remember walking across the street and like pushing my face to really, and I just had to go in and try it on. And I did. And that voice again said, "You must wear this for Cherry Bomb." And I bought it. Then I had a meeting with Scott Anderson and Kim Fowley at my home, and I put it on. And I walked out and I said, "I want to wear this for Cherry Bomb." And Kim, I said, "But the girls are going to hate it." And boy, was I right about that. They hated it.
The girls
But
in the
Kim
band?
knew. Oh, sure. Yeah, that was not something that made them feel comfortable. Like even Lita will turn around and she go, "Oh, that effing corset." But I knew in my heart that wearing that corset was going to bring a lot of attention to the band, and we
Uh,
needed it.
yeah.
And it certainly did. It certainly did.
And did the girls get over it? They accepted it?
Not really. I don't even think, well, I think Joan has now, but I don't think Lita's ever going to get over it. It did what it was meant to do because I only wore it for 3 minutes. I only wore it for Cherry Bomb, and then I would walk off stage and change back into another costume. But sometimes people believe I wore that the entire set, and I didn't. It was just for that one song.
You didn't go home in it afterwards? Huh.
Oh, hell no. No.
Cherie Currie's extraordinary life really reads like fiction, and she was always taking the road less travelled. Born and raised in Southern California, Cherie was into surfing and skateboarding until she was discovered one day in a local club by producer Kim Fowler. He had admired her looks, just picked her out of the crowd and asked if she could sing. He then quickly wrote the song Cherry Bomb for her to use as an impromptu audition piece. Cherie joined the band and that song became the Runaways' biggest ever hit. Today it still stands as a universal anthem for teenage rebellion.
They had asked me to learn a Susie Quattro song. Susie, who is one of my dearest friends now, and of course I know she's a big Australia chick as well
Absolutely, she
because
loves this country.
yeah, she does, she does. So they asked me to learn a Susie Quattro song, but my background was always the Andrews Sisters and Dean Martin, which
Oh,
nobody even knows. But that's what I would sing with my dad. My dad was a great singer, and so I learned Fever. The girls were not impressed, and they didn't know the song. And I mean, I think they were about to learn Can the Can or, something. That was really what they were expecting. So Tim just turns and he goes to Joan, "Joan, you come with me." And they walked into the home because we were doing this audition in Carrie Chrome's garage. Carrie Chrome was a young gal that was writing a lot with Kim Fowley at the time and Joan. And they went into her house and came out 20 minutes later, and he handed me the lyrics and he told Joan, "Play." And so she starts playing and he starts kind of singing, but it's, Kim didn't. And he just said, "Do it." So it's like I had to kind of come up with a melody and make it all work on the spot. And I kind of really realized at 15, I never knew I should have gotten writing credit for that song, but I should have. Darn it. But that was, I sold them on that song. And in the movie, that's the one thing they manipulated a lot of stuff that I think that they didn't need to do. That Dakota Fanning in the film turning around and saying, I don't want to sing this. It's like, are you kidding me? I was all over it. I loved it, and I still, even at 65, saying, I'll have you and grab you till you're sore. I'm just wondering when people are going to start, you know.
No, I think you've got quite a way to go.
Well, I mean, it's just, to me, it's what I breathe. That song, it will always be
That's your signature
my
tune.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did it feel like for you becoming part of the band and being the front person of that band turned your life upside down overnight?
It did. And there was so much insecurity too, because it just all happened so fast. I'd only been in the band, I think, 2 weeks when Danny Rosenkrantz from Capitol Records came in to this little trailer that we were rehearsing in. And I'll never forget, because he had turned Kim down before with Mickey Steele as the front person and the trio. And I'll just never forget him going, and that was it. So 2 weeks in, we get a record deal. And then it just never stopped. I mean, we rehearsed. If we weren't rehearsing, we were doing photo shoots. If we weren't doing photo shoots, interviews, and touring. So, I mean, we never had one break, not one. And a little over 2 years that I was in that band.
Were you getting paid adequately for your time?
No, no money, no money at all. In fact, we didn't, we were, we would ask for like $20 for Tampax, or, can we have a hamburger or something? Kim would always give us a hard time about it. The first time we actually got paid was after Japan, which was my final tour with the Runaways, because we knew with all the merchandise and everything else that was selling like crazy, we were sold out all of our shows. There was no reason why we were staying at like cheap motels. How can we not? Why are we not being paid? And Kim would always turn around and say, well, we have to pay the record company back for, their investment. Well, I know that record. We cut that record. I think it took us 2 weeks. And Kim would only let us do like a couple of takes, and he'd say, you're done, dog, get out. I know the record was made cheaply, but it was after Japan. I think we each got a check for $1,200 with all of the merchandise, the millions of dollars they made. We did have to go after Kim and sue him and Polygram Records, me, Lita, Sandy, and Joan.
Right.
Jackie had already done it without telling any of us. She had made a deal with them back in the 90s, early 90s. So she was off the table. And then we went after him. And now at least we get royalties, because we didn't even get that till the
Amazing.
mid 90s. Yeah.
So you're done, dog? Is that how he talked to you?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes, that's right. Yeah, dog and dog puke and all of that
What?
stuff. Oh, sure. And that, bothered me a lot.
I
It
bet it
really
did.
did. But, I had to put on my big girl pants. I needed to be in this band. And anytime we would rock the boat about money, anything like that, Kim would just turn around and say, well, you know what? I'm just going to walk away. And we signed that record contract through Kim Fowley. So we were never individually signed to Mercury. It was through Kim, because we were all underage and our parents had to sign off and all that. But is what he would do if we started at all complaining, as he says, well, I'm just going to walk away and you guys will have nothing. And so our parents kind of learned that, because we wanted this so bad.
None of the girls' parents ever said anything to him, tried to score a better deal for you. They
Oh,
they just
yes.
let it happen.
Yes. They did, because we would fight our parents on it. Because, I mean, when Kim says I'm walking away and then there's no deal,
Yeah.
there's no more records, there's no, I mean, that was very scary for kids that are only 16, 17, 18. He was our producer, our manager. He was our everything, and we didn't know how to do this. Being a mother myself, I don't know how they did it. To have the guts to let your child, when my son was 16, my twin sister was married to Steve Lukather of Toto, and their son, Trevor Lukather, who is 5 years older than Jake, he had put together a band. He was going on tour, and he wanted Jake to go on tour with him, play rhythm guitar. And I looked at Jake and I said, "How would you like your no, fast or slow?" Jake said, "But Mom, you did this when you were 60." I said, "Exactly.
You
No,
know,
not unless I
yeah.
can go with you." Yeah. But anyway, this was uncharted territory. This was new. It really hadn't been done before. So we just wanted to continue to play, and that's what we ended up doing. But unfortunately, we imploded, after 3 albums.
The Runaways were a significant band, especially for their time. While not a massive mainstream success in the US, they were a groundbreaking all female rock band, gaining recognition for their music and rebellious image. In Japan, their popularity soared and included sold out shows, a TV special, numerous TV appearances, and a gold selling live album. Their formation and success inspired many young women to pick up instruments and form bands, challenging the male-dominated music industry of the time. Cherie says despite this, she was never swept away with the success they enjoyed.
Not really. I mean, I honestly thought that we were just a flash in the pan. And even I didn't even look at any of the videos or anything until the mid 90s. So we're talking, 20 years. I couldn't bring myself to look at anything because I was still so injured by the experience and leaving on such bad notes with Joan. And as Joan and I were very close. Lita and I never were, and she always just really scared me. But Sandy West and I continued to be best friends all the way up until she passed.
What happened with Joan?
She just, for some reason, uh, she thought that I didn't really want to be in that band anymore, and that wasn't true. It was just when Lita, attacked me basically in the dressing room because I had to leave. We were sharing a car, my twin sister and I. My twin needed to go to acting class, and I had told the photographer, Barry Levine, that I needed to leave on time. But he had run late. They had gotten there late. I'd been there setting up shots and everything with Barry, and then Barry kind of threw a hissy fit, threw his camera on the ground, and got Lita all riled up. And when I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I have to go," and Lita kicked in the door and pushed me up against a wall and said, "You're going to choose between us and your family." And that was all I needed. I mean, there had just been so many bad feelings with nobody helping us navigate all of the insecurities and jealousies that happen when you've got teenage girls doing something that hadn't been done before. That was the final straw. Lita was the final straw for me.
Yeah, it would have been very different if you'd had a guiding person there.
Yes, truly. Very, very true, Sandy.
Couldn't
Yes.
couldn't one of the mothers step up and be that influence for you?
Well, Jackie's mother did come with us to the UK, which was great. And she was a registered nurse, so that was good. But, they had their lives. They were all working parents too.
And what about your
Absolutely.
sister? You said that she was always the popular one. How did she handle your success? Was she happy for you or a little envious?
I think envious. I mean, unfortunately, that's why the record with Capitol happened because my dad had pulled me aside after I left the Runaways, and I was shooting foxes at the time, and he just said, "Kitten, you got to help her because she's working at Pup and Taco. You've got to help her." And I said, "Dad, please just let me become a solo artist. There's interest in me right now. Please let me do this on my own," because my sister had never stepped on a stage. I'd been doing it for years, but he said no. He goes, "I'll have to cut you loose if you don't."
Really?
Family comes first. Yes. And that my father went to his grave very, very sorry he did that because Marie thought she wanted to do it, but once we did it, she realized she didn't want to. And she felt like it really wasn't. Does take a special person. It is really a calling. It isn't just something that anyone can do. And after we made our record for Capitol, she and Steve Lukather called me, and it's $250,000 record. We're talking 1981. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on a
Yeah,
record.
that's messing with the boys,
And
right?
right, Marie said, we're calling you because we just really want to have babies, and I don't want to go on tour with you. And I said, well, you know that what that's going to mean. They're going to drop me. And they said, no, they won't. You're Cherie Currie. No, but they did. So it was
Oh,
really a mistake that
cost you a lot.
it did. It cost me my career. And that was too bad because a part of me knew, that inner voice that I keep talking about, knew this was wrong, but I
Until your
loved my
day.
family.
Yeah.
I loved my family. Never, never do what family tells you. You have to listen to that
Inner
voice no
voice.
matter what. They will come around, Sandy. They will come around, but you'll never get back. Like I said, that inner voice that told me, do not do this. And I knew that I would not only have to bring my level of performance down to meet hers,
Yeah.
and even Steve Lukather would turn around and say, Cherie, you got to bring it down a bit because you're making Marie look bad. It's like, oh my God. I mean, it was really a rough go. But Marie, she's never wanted to do it since. Never.
Yeah.
Wasn't in her blood. She just thought it was.
In their heyday, the Runaways headlined bills over legendary bands like Van Halen, Tom Petty, the Ramones, and Cheap Trick. By the time their sophomore album was released, they'd gone international and became known as the fourth most popular international act, behind Led Zeppelin, ABBA, and Kiss. What a thrill.
Yeah, it really is. They were so good to us. And there were so many bands that really weren't.
So you did get some support, the
A little
guys.
bit. Yeah. And also like Boston, the band Boston, who was huge. They were just so gracious. They really wanted to protect us because they knew how tough it was. And we were just
Yeah.
kids.
Do you ever regret walking away from the band?
Always. I do. But yet I also know that there was no way it could continue without some kind of support, some mental health support for all of us. And Jackie had left in Japan. She had hacked herself up with glass and she had just so they shipped her off home, and so we had to finish the tour as just a four piece with Joan on bass. But that was really the when we started going downhill, when no break, not one, and no guidance whatsoever. You can only you get and then you get tired.
Well, I mean,
I was
even though
tired.
yeah, I'm sure you were, even though you were a teenager. I mean, if you're working long hours, and I'm sure you weren't eating right, you weren't sleeping right, it would wear you down completely, and then you
And no
can't.
money.
Yeah, right.
And no money. And we're not making any money at all. Yeah,
Gosh.
I mean, it became a point where I knew something was off, and I knew that that we were being really ripped off, because you see T-shirts everywhere, and
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, it's sold out crowds, and we're not getting
Yeah.
paid.
How confident were you in establishing your own solo career after that?
Well, I would have been a lot more comfortable. I got a Neil Bogart from Casablanca offered me I did a show for him that he had arranged, and he offered me a deal. But then I had to bring Marie in, and he wouldn't do it with Marie. I had to walk away from that. And the same thing happened with Capitol. Capitol said, we'll give you a deal, but not with Marie, because they knew what was obvious, painfully obvious, that this really wasn't for her. But,
Oh, Cherie.
what do you do all these years later? I mean, it's been so long. And really, I used drugs to kind of get those feelings away from me, because I knew I'd screwed up majorly, big time, when my sister walked. And when I got dropped, I knew that I had lost a huge opportunity. And that was hard. That was really hard.
How did you get yourself off drugs?
I moved home to my Aunt Evie's house, and
Started again.
I sure did. And I became a fitness trainer. And I went to work at a mall just down the street from me because I wanted to know what it felt like to be normal. So I just took any job, I mean, that I could get. I walked in and selling linen, and I was paid, I think, $2.50. He goes, how much do you want an hour? Well, I didn't know. And so I said, 250 an hour. He goes, great. Well, little did I know it was actually legally, he had to give me 350 an hour.
Yeah.
But I needed, even though there was a record store directly across from us, and people would, even Rosanna Arquette, the actress who's been a friend of mine, walked, said, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm working. What does it look like I'm doing? But I needed to get grounded. I needed to know what real life was like. So I'm very glad I did that,
And then you fell
and
into
then
the movies.
well, the acting, I had done a show, and Dennis Brody was his name from William Morris Agency, and he just happened to be there. And he walked up and he said, "Cherie, ever thought of acting?" I said, "Well, it's entertainment, sure, why not?" And little did I know, I mean, he sent me out the first movie I think was Rock and Roll High School, and the second one was Foxes. And I chose Foxes because I love Jodie Foster so much.
Me too.
And at that time, I was making the record with Marie. So there's a lot of lying because I couldn't let my sister know the truth either. The company didn't even want her singing on the record. It was just a terrible situation, to be honest with you. But the only way that I could numb those feelings was through drugs. And that took down my movie career as well, was cocaine. But I've learned a lot in my 65 years. I wish I would have listened to that inner voice. And that's why I always tell people you must. That is the lesson. You listen to that inner voice and you will never be steered wrong. And you have to believe it. Because if you don't, bad things happen. And I lost both my record career and my acting career, all because I didn't listen.
Is that what prompted you to write the book?
Well, of course.
And your overriding message in that was listen to your inner voice.
Well, it was also a book about forgiveness. There had to be forgiveness all the way around. I mean, a lot of things happen. I mean, right after I left the Runaways, I was kidnapped by a guy that was a murderer that I'm just so lucky I got out of there alive. Things like that, that you can survive. I'm so lucky because 6 women didn't. He killed 6 women. And of course, me being a people pleaser, it's the only reason why I got into this car. Just to pull around a park at the Sugar Shack. All my friends are there. The guard is there. I thought I was safe, but I wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that this man, who was an attractive looking guy driving a big green limousine, did I know that I was stepping into more than likely was going to be my demise. I wouldn't change anything in my life except I really wish I would have just told my dad no when it came to Marie. And Marie, to this day, she feels terrible about it. It's tough for her because she knows that I had a real shot there as a solo artist. That I'll never know if it would have happened or not, but I certainly had a lot of support and I'd worked really hard for it.
The Runaways film made its debut in 2010. How did that come to be?
That was my book. That was the original paperback. And Kenny Laguna was my manager at that time, who has been Joan's manager. And John and Art Linson, who did Fight Club and all that, they stepped in to produce this film with Bill Polad. And then we had Dakota Fanning and Kristen Stewart and Michael Shannon signing up to do this film. So if it wouldn't have been for that book, if it wouldn't have been for me drawing those little whimsical things, there wouldn't have been a movie. So everything kind of,
Fell into place then. Yeah.
yes, yes.
And your solo career picked up after that too, because you ended up making more albums too, didn't you?
I did. And of course, I did my latest one, which I'm so proud of, Boulevards of Splendor. I mean, that was through Joan Jett's record company. That was Blackheart. And I had opened for her at the Pacific Amphitheater. Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses was my drummer. And we were offered a deal that night because we just blew everyone away. And again, I mean, Joan's been doing this, for 30 years, 40 years at that time. And I was very fresh. And so I really, I won Performance of the Year and all that. And even though that Kenny was my manager, he didn't let me feel good about that because Joan was the one he wished would have won Performance of the Year. We were offered a record deal, but then Kenny said, "No, we need to protect you. We want you to do it on Blackheart." And Matt Sorum, that voice in his head said, "This is not good. There's too much of a conflict of interest." And he was right. And it's tough for me to forgive myself because I really believed that Kenny would protect me. But unfortunately, he shelved that record for 10 years. And after I opened for Joan and had such praise and acclaim from that, I never worked again as long as I was with with Kenny Laguna as my manager. So I just
He held
counted
you
down
back.
the days. 2 years I had to sit after that amazing show. And he just would never let me play. And I think I was a little bit of a competition for Joan, and Joan was number one. So that's when they decide to release the album digital during COVID because Joan was not on the road. But now that's the next thing I have to forgive because I was 50 years old. I'm 65, so it's 15 years ago, and I have to be able to forgive him. I forgave Kim Fowley, but this one's a little tougher, believe it or not, because he was really my best friend for 20 some odd years. But you know what? Life balances everything out. And to be able to talk to you and come to Australia balances it all out.
First time to
And
Australia?
my second time, I was there in 2016, but this is going to bring a spark that I haven't felt since the Runaways, working with my son and these players. So this is really exciting for me.
How fabulous
Really
that
is.
you
Yeah.
can travel with your son and play together. And no chance that we'll ever see you and Joan get back together as part of the Runaways.
Well, I mean, I'm the only band member that's played with all of them. I played with Joan and Lita, Sandy, and of course Jackie. But Lita just hates Kenny Laguna, and she and Joan don't see eye to eye. So no matter what, I kind of had to just give up the ghost and just say, you know what, it's just not going to happen, which is sad because I really wish that they would consider, because when I'm on stage with them, there's such chemistry. We could have that, but it's just they really more so Lita and now even Joan. I just don't think they like each other. And that's just too bad. There's just nothing I can do. So
The
you got to
same
walk away when yeah,
the same teenage things persist, don't they? Now, Cherie
yeah.
Currie, absolutely fabulous talking with you.
Sandy, thank you, honey. I so appreciate it. I can't wait to see you in person, give you a hug.
Ditto. All the best to you, Cherie.